Alright, stop scrolling right now because this is one of the wildest Hollywood stories you probably think you already know, but you don't. Rob Reiner didn't just make a couple of good movies. He went on one of the most insane creative runs in film history, changed pop culture forever, and then somehow watched it all slowly slip away. This isn't just a list of movies and TV shows. This is the unbelievable rise, peak, and shift of a Hollywood legend who once seemed completely unstoppable. Before Rob Reiner was the guy behind some of the most quotable movies ever made, he was actually known as something totally different. If you rewind far enough, most people first met him not behind the camera, but on TV screens across America. He wasn't a director yet. He was an actor. And not just any actor. He was part of one of the most explosive TV shows of all time. Playing Meathead on a controversial, culture-shaking sitcom put him right in the middle of American living rooms. Week after week, millions of people watched him clash, joke, and argue in a way TV had never really done before. That alone could have been a full career for most people. But Rob Reiner wasn't thinking small. Behind the scenes, while the spotlight was on his acting, he was quietly learning everything. How shows were structured, how jokes landed, how timing worked, how audiences reacted. He was soaking it all in. And the second he stepped behind the camera, Hollywood had no idea what was about to hit it. His first major directing efforts didn't just succeed. They exploded. Suddenly, this former sitcom actor was making movies that felt fresh, fearless, and completely different. Then came the moment that changed everything. A movie so strange, so hilarious, and so sharp that people didn't even know how to classify it at first. A fake documentary about a rock band that felt so real it confused audiences. Over time, it became legendary. Quotes from it spread everywhere. Musicians referenced it. Comedians worshipped it. This was the moment Hollywood realized Rob Reiner wasn't just talented. He was dangerous in the best way possible. And then it got crazier. What came next is honestly hard to believe even now. Movie after movie. Genre after genre. And somehow he didn't miss. A heartfelt coming-of-age story that captured childhood better than almost any film before it. A fantasy adventure that mixed romance, comedy, and action so perfectly it became timeless. A romantic comedy that redefined the genre and is still quoted decades later. A psychological thriller that terrified audiences without relying on cheap tricks. A courtroom drama that delivered one of the most famous lines in movie history. Read that again. Those are wildly different movies. Different tones. Different audiences. Different risks. And yet, they all worked. Not just financially, but culturally. People didn't just watch these movies. They memorized them. They passed them down. They argued about them. They fell in love to them. At this point, Rob Reiner wasn't just successful. He was untouchable. Directors dream of making one classic. He made several in a row. Studios trusted him. Actors wanted to work with him. Writers wanted his approval. When his name was attached to a project, people paid attention. This was a golden era where everything he touched seemed to turn into something unforgettable. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because Hollywood doesn't stay still. Audiences change. Trends shift. And even legends aren't immune. After years of dominance, the magic started to fade. Not overnight. Not in one big crash. But slowly. Subtly. One project didn't connect the same way. Another fell off. Expectations were sky high, and suddenly the reactions weren't matching the hype. Some of these later movies weren't terrible. That's the thing. They just weren't era-defining. And when you're Rob Reiner, anything less than iconic feels like a failure in the public eye. Critics started asking questions. Fans started comparing everything to the classics. The conversation shifted from excitement to disappointment. And that's one of the hardest places any creator can be. Rob Reiner tried different directions. He experimented. He leaned into different themes. Some projects found their audience. Others came and went without much noise. Meanwhile, a new generation of filmmakers was taking over, inspired by the very movies he had made years earlier. The industry he helped shape was now moving forward without him at the center. But here's what people often forget. Even during this so-called decline, his influence never disappeared. His earlier films kept growing. New viewers discovered them. Quotes lived on. Scenes became memes. Entire genres still follow the blueprint he helped build. His TV roots remained legendary. His film runs stayed unmatched. And Rob Reiner didn't vanish. He stayed vocal. He stayed active. He stayed involved in conversations both inside and outside of entertainment. Whether people agreed with him or not, he was still part of the cultural conversation. Still recognizable. Still relevant in his own way. What makes Rob Reiner's story so fascinating isn't just the highs or the lows. It's the range. Very few people in Hollywood history can say they dominated both television and film the way he did. Even fewer can say they reshaped multiple genres and left behind movies that feel just as alive today as they did decades ago. Think about it. How many directors can jump from a mockumentary to a childhood drama to a fairy tale romance to a romantic comedy to a horror thriller to a courtroom powerhouse and nail all of them? That's not normal. That's rare. That's historic. So when people ask what happened to Rob Reiner, the real answer isn't that simple. Nothing happened in the way people like to frame it. He didn't disappear. He didn't suddenly lose talent. He completed a creative run most filmmakers could only dream of, and then kept going in an industry that constantly demands reinvention. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Rob Reiner's movies and TV shows aren't just entertainment. They're milestones. They mark moments in pop culture when storytelling felt bold, human, funny, emotional, and fearless all at once. They remind us that sometimes lightning really does strike multiple times for the same person. Now I want to hear from you. Which Rob Reiner movie or TV role hit you the hardest? Which one do you think still holds up the best today? And do you think his legendary run will ever be matched? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I read every single one. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you hit that like button, share this video with someone who loves classic movies, and subscribe to Twinkle Hype for more stories that dig deep into Hollywood legends. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.